I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the dinner reservation on our shared calendar. An upscale place we'd never been. For two, scheduled on a Thursday night when she told me she had a late meeting. It wasn't the reservation itself that stung. It was the care she'd taken to hide it. She renamed it Client Dinner and added her assistant's name to the notes. If I hadn't been checking the sync issues with my phone and laptop, I might have never seen it. But I did. And instead of confronting her, I did something I didn't even know I was capable of. I watched. I opened the security camera app tied to our house and, after confirming the street-facing camera was on, I waited. She came out at 6:41 p.m., in a dress I'd never seen. Heels she said hurt too much to wear, and with that smile, the one I hadn't seen aimed at me in over a year. She wasn't alone. A man stepped out behind her. I didn't recognize him. Tall, close-shaven, confident posture. He reached for the small of her back as they walked to his car, and she didn't pull away. I didn't watch them leave. I closed the app, powered off my phone, and walked out the front door. I drove until the tank dipped into the red, then parked in an old rest stop off the interstate. I sat in silence for what felt like hours. Not thinking, not crying, just stuck. I didn't go home that night, or the next. I rented a room in a nameless motel near the edge of a small town no one ever really stops in. It had water-stained ceilings, buzzing lights, and a bed that creaked if you looked at it too hard. But it was quiet and I needed quiet. For a week I disappeared. I didn't answer messages, didn't return calls. I just sat with that image of her leaving with him, her laughter echoing from the past like a ghost. But on the 8th day, I turned my phone on. It buzzed violently for several minutes. Missed calls, messages, voice notes, all from her. I didn't listen to most of them. I didn't have to. I'd heard every apology before she even spoke it. But one message caught my attention, not because of what it said, but how she said it. Please, you don't understand. He's not just someone I knew. He's dangerous. He's not watching me. He's watching you. I almost laughed. It was so obviously manipulative. Turning the blame. Redirecting the fear. Classic. Until I checked the front desk of the motel later that day, and the manager handed me a plain white envelope. Guy said this was for you. Didn't leave a name. My name wasn't even registered to the room. I used an alias. Inside the envelope were photos. Printed, high-resolution shots of me. In the motel room. Walking to my car. Even one of me asleep. My blood ran cold. I hadn't told anyone where I was. I hadn't even posted online or paid with my real card. Someone had followed me. Not just that, they'd been watching. I flipped the photos over. On the back of each one was a single letter, cut out from newspaper headlines, glued like a ransom note. When arranged, they spelled, "He's me now." I packed up and left within the hour. I drove through the night, ending up in another town 3 hours south, afraid to stay still. It wasn't about the affair anymore. Not really. That had just been the trigger, the crack that let all this flood through. I called her. I shouldn't have, but I did. She answered on the first ring, breathless. "Cal?" she said. "Please tell me where you are." I didn't know it would get like this. I said nothing. My mind was racing. I thought I could handle it. He said he just wanted to talk, to catch up. I didn't even invite him into our life, he just appeared. But now he's watching everything. I asked her one question. "Who is he?" Silence. Then softly, "His name's Ryan. From before you." He was intense, controlling. After we split, I thought I'd never hear from him again. I waited. He started messaging me last year. I ignored him, but a month ago he showed up at my office. Then outside our house. That dinner, it wasn't what it looked like. I scoffed. "You laughed with him." I was scared. I didn't know what he'd do if I rejected him. He said things about you, Cal. Personal things. Things he shouldn't know. I was about to hang up when she said, "He has a wall, Cal, with your photos, your schedule, notes on how you talk, your expressions." I saw it. "He's trying to become you." I didn't believe her. Not then. It sounded too much like a desperate cover story. Until I got another envelope the next day. This one was thicker. Inside were photos, not of me but of someone else. A man who looked like me. Same haircut. Same build. Wearing my jacket. Standing outside my office. Speaking to my coworkers. One photo showed him shaking hands with someone I barely recognized. An old friend I hadn't seen in years. In that moment, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just stalking. It was mimicry. Identity theft at a level I couldn't begin to comprehend. And my wife, my possibly unfaithful, possibly terrified wife, had known. She hadn't told me. Maybe because she was afraid. Maybe because she didn't know how. Or maybe because she didn't think I'd believe her. She was right. But it didn't matter now. Because whether or not she cheated, whether or not she still loved me, I was now at the center of something much worse than heartbreak. Someone out there wasn't just trying to ruin me. He was trying to replace me. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. I sat in the corner of a cheap roadside motel room, the glow of a single bulb casting long shadows across the peeling wallpaper. I kept expecting a knock, a footstep, the buzz of my phone lighting up with another cryptic message. But there was nothing. Just silence. The kind of silence that grows too loud. The kind that presses against your ears and makes you question if it's silence at all. I didn't close my eyes. Not because I wasn't tired, but because I was afraid of what I'd see when I opened them. My own face staring back, warped into something not quite mine. The man in the photographs, he wasn't just mimicking me. He was rehearsing. He was rehearsing my life. I tried to retrace the timeline in my mind, tried to remember the first moment things started to feel off. It wasn't the dinner reservation or even the laughter on the security footage. No, it was earlier. Months back. The time my boss asked if I'd decided against the promotion I never applied for. The call from an old college roommate thanking me for catching up last weekend, even though I hadn't left the house. Little things, strange inconsistencies I'd brushed off as stress or poor memory. But now they clicked together, like puzzle pieces dropped in the dark. By the next morning I had a plan, or at least the start of one. I wasn't going back home, not yet. I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof that this man existed, that he was walking in my shadow. I drove to a public library an hour away and used one of their computers to search for surveillance services, private investigators, anyone who could verify my fears without alerting the wrong person. I didn't use my name. I paid in cash. I kept my head down. It felt like living in a movie I never auditioned for. I found a PI, mid-50s, gruff voice, no-nonsense tone. He went by Russell and he didn't ask too many questions. When I showed him the photographs and told him someone was impersonating me, he didn't laugh or dismiss me. He just looked at me for a long time, then said, "I've seen this before. Not often, but it happens." I asked him what kind of person does this. He scratched his beard and replied, "The kind that doesn't just want to be you. The kind that thinks they already are." Russell agreed to dig around, tail the address I gave him, my house, and let me know if anyone unusual came and went. I gave him the timestamp from the metadata of one of the images, the location from the GPS storage facility outside Nashville. I told him, "I don't know what you'll find there, but it's connected." He nodded, took the file, and left without another word. I didn't expect answers right away, but part of me hoped that by giving someone else the burden, I could breathe. I was wrong. That night, I returned to the motel and found my door slightly ajar. I stopped. My heart pounded so hard it felt like the entire hallway could hear it. I reached for the handle and pushed it open. Inside, the lights were off. Everything looked untouched. But the air was wrong again. I walked in slowly, flipped the switch, and then I saw it. A mirror, standing upright against the far wall, like it had been placed there deliberately. I hadn't brought a mirror. This wasn't hotel furniture. On the surface, written in what looked like dry erase marker, were words I couldn't make sense of at first. Then I stepped closer. "The mirror doesn't lie, but it forgets," it read. My blood ran cold. I stared at my reflection for what felt like hours. Same face, same eyes, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was looking out at me, not copying me, inhabiting me. I left the room that night, didn't take anything with me, just walked out, got in the car, and drove until I crossed state lines. I didn't care where I ended up, as long as it was somewhere new, somewhere he hadn't already been. I stayed off the highways, paid with cash. I didn't call my wife, didn't tell her where I was. I didn't trust her yet, not fully, because as much as I wanted to believe her fear was real, her silence had lasted too long. If she knew someone was watching me, if she saw that wall with my face on it, why didn't she tell me the moment it happened? Why let me walk blind into a life that wasn't mine anymore? By the third day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I didn't answer, called again, and again. Finally, I picked up. "You need to see this," Russell said. "I found the place. You were right. There's something in that storage unit." My fingers tightened around the phone. "What?" I asked. "You're not gonna like it," he said. "He's got a wall, all right? Files, photos, voice samples, journal entries. Some are real, some are fake, but they're all about you." "Is he there now?" I asked. "No," he said, "but someone was there this morning, left just before I arrived." I got a partial shot from the outside cam. "Sending it now." A few seconds later, the image popped up on my phone. It was grainy, but clear enough. A man walking out of the unit, hoodie pulled low, cap over his face. But his posture, that same uncanny confidence. The same walk. My walk. "He's getting bolder," Russell said. "This isn't just stalking anymore. He's practicing. He's almost ready." I ended the call and sat in silence. Practicing. That word kept echoing. Practicing for what? What did he want? Not just my life. Not just my wife. He wanted to become me. Erase me. Step into my skin and make everyone forget I was ever real. I stared at the photo on my screen until my phone went dark. Then I did something reckless. I called my wife. She answered. "Cal," she breathed. "Please tell me you're okay." "I need to see the wall," I said. "The one with my face on it." She was silent. "I know it's real. Private investigator found it. I need to see it for myself." Her voice cracked. "I don't know if it's safe." "I'm not asking for safe," I replied. "I'm asking for the truth." She gave me the address. An old workshop on the edge of town. Said she hadn't been there since that night. "He stopped contacting me after you vanished," she added. "I think he realized you knew." I hung up without answering. That night, I stood outside that workshop with a flashlight in one hand and my car keys in the other. The place was dark, silent. The door wasn't locked. Of course it wasn't. He wanted me to come. And when I stepped inside and turned on the light, I saw it. My life pinned across every wall, like some twisted museum. Photos, drawings, fake IDs, voice transcriptions, email printouts. And in the middle of the back wall, written in red, "You are the mask. I am the face." Something inside me snapped. This wasn't about identity anymore. This was war. The hardest part wasn't what I saw pinned to those walls. It wasn't the photos of me sleeping on my own couch, or the printouts of emails I thought were private, or even the drawings. Dozens of hand-sketched portraits of my face, each slightly distorted like he was trying to memorize the curves, the angles, the soul behind the eyes. No, the hardest part was the sound. A faint hum in the back corner of the workshop. I followed it instinctively, like a moth drawn to something it knows might kill it. It was a small speaker, barely larger than a bar of soap, hidden behind an old workbench. And it was playing my voice, not just mimicking, replaying. A conversation I had with my wife nearly 6 months ago, one I distinctly remembered because it was the last time we talked about having kids. My words, my pauses, my laugh, everything. It wasn't just recorded. It was dissected, cataloged, archived. I stared at the speaker like it might come alive and say something I hadn't said yet. I felt violated in a way I can't describe. Not just watched, hollowed out. The longer I stayed in that room, the more I understood. This wasn't just a stalker. This was someone who saw identity not as something you had, but something you could take. I snapped photos of everything. The wall, the folders, the desk. I didn't know what would be useful to police later, but I needed a record. Proof that I wasn't insane. proof that this wasn't just grief or paranoia or some elaborate trauma fantasy. Before I left, I checked the drawers. Most were empty. One held a small stack of letters, all addressed to me. But they weren't from my wife. They were from him. Dozens of them. Some typed, some handwritten. Letters like journal entries, written in a voice that sounded eerily like my own. He'd imagined conversations we'd never had. He'd written responses to arguments we'd never fought. In one, he described our morning routine, his with her. He made her breakfast. He kissed her cheek. He tucked a note into her purse. It was fiction. Except it wasn't. Not to him. He believed it. I drove all night again. This time not to run, but to process. Couldn't go home yet. I needed to understand how deep this went. I called Russell. Told him what I found. He was silent on the line for a moment, then said, "You're not dealing with a stalker. You're dealing with a replacement. A man who sees your life as his unfinished project." "Why me?" I asked. "Why not someone else?" "Because you're just real enough to believe in and just forgettable enough to steal." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Forgettable. That was the word that followed me lately. My friends had drifted. My parents rarely called. Even at work, I'd been passed over, ignored, overlooked. I blamed myself, blamed her, blamed life. But now I wondered, had he been pulling threads already? Sowing disconnection? Making me easier to erase? I arrived back in town by morning and parked a block away from my own house. I didn't go in. I sat in the car and watched. It was surreal, like waiting for yourself to walk out the front door. Eventually, I texted my wife. "We need to talk. Face to face. No more cryptic calls. No more lies." She replied within seconds. "Come in." The doors unlocked. I hesitated, then stepped out and walked slowly toward the house. The inside looked the same. Too much the same. Like someone had studied every detail and reassembled it. She sat on the couch, pale, arms folded, eyes red. "You saw it," she said. "I did." We didn't hug, didn't sit close. Just two people orbiting the same trauma, afraid to touch it. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked. She looked away. "Because I was scared. Not just of him. Of you. Of what you'd think of me. I thought maybe if I kept him at a distance, if I played along just enough, it would go away." "And the dinner?" I asked. "Did you sleep with him?" Her silence was long and suffocating. "No," she said at last. "But I let him believe I might. Kept him predictable. Until it didn't. That was the first time I believed her. Not because I wanted to, but because she looked exhausted from holding it in. We talked for hours. I told her everything about the speaker, the wall, the letters. She told me about the day he first appeared outside her office, the gifts, the messages, the warnings. "He said I was living someone else's lie," she whispered. "That you weren't who you pretended to be. That you'd stolen this life from someone more worthy. Him." I wanted to dismiss it as psychosis. But part of me wondered, had this all started long before I met her? Was I just walking a path he'd drawn years ago? A test subject for a life he couldn't have? "He knew my dog's name," she said, shaking. "He knew what shirt you wore on your birthday. He said he'd been watching you long before we met. That I was just the connection point." My stomach turned. "You mean I wasn't the target because of you?" "No," she said, voice trembling. "I was the target because of you." And just like that, everything flipped. She hadn't betrayed me. She'd been caught in the crossfire of someone else's obsession. We decided not to sleep that night. She locked every window while I set up a makeshift barricade by the door. It felt theatrical but necessary. We took turns watching the hallway. Around 3 a.m., I checked her phone while she slept lightly on the couch. One unread message. No name, just a number. I opened it. It was a voice message. I played it on speaker. At first, there was only silence. Then my voice, "Don't trust her. I made her tell you. But she's lying again." I froze. I hadn't recorded that. I'd never said those words. But it was me. My cadence. My tone. My breath. "She's just waiting," the voice continued. waiting for me to finish the job. It ended abruptly. I sat there, phone in hand, heart racing. That wasn't just mimicry. That was a threat, a fracture line being drawn between us. And I realized what he was trying to do. Not just replace me, divide us, erase the only truth left standing between him and my life. Trust. When she woke, I didn't tell her. Not yet, because I wasn't sure if I believed it myself. Not the voice, but the implication. Was she really with me? Or still under his influence? I hated that I even had to ask that question. But paranoia grows fast when someone uses your own voice against you. I opened the window and stared into the street. It was too quiet again. That same dreadful stillness. Then I noticed something across the road. Another car. A rental. One I didn't recognize. It hadn't been there yesterday. I watched it for a full hour. No one moved. No lights. But it was there. Watching. Or waiting. And I knew. We had one shot left. Not to run. Not to hide. But to bait him. To make him step out from behind the curtain and prove, once and for all, that this was real. I looked back at her. She was staring at me now like she could see it in my eyes. The decision. The trap. We're going to end this, I said. She nodded. Tell me what to do. We spent the next 12 hours setting the trap. I don't know what surprised me more, that she agreed to it without question, or that I trusted her enough to go through with it. We were both exhausted, frayed at the edges, half broken in different directions. But somewhere in the wreckage of the last few weeks, we'd found a single thread of shared purpose. That was enough. The plan wasn't complicated. It didn't need to be. We knew he was watching and we knew he wanted access to the house, to her, to me. So we gave it to him, or at least made it look that way. We started with the digital footprint. She posted a photo from inside the house to an old account she hadn't used in over a year. One we knew he still tracked based on the metadata he'd left in one of the voice memos. A shot of the living room, casually framed, with the caption, "Home alone, trying to sleep." We left the porch light on, cracked the front window just enough to tempt someone to test it, and made sure the side gate was unlocked. But we weren't there. We'd rented a room in the house across the street. Vacant, barely furnished, but with a perfect view of our front door. Russell was with us. I called him that morning, explained everything. He didn't hesitate, just packed his gear and showed up by noon with binoculars, a thermal camera, and a look that said he'd seen stranger things but not by much. "You're sure he'll take the bait?" he asked as we set up the surveillance. I nodded. He's been waiting for an invitation. We just sent it. Night fell like a curtain, and with it came the stillness. We sat in silence, eyes trained on the house, breaths shallow. Around 2:13 a.m., Russell leaned forward, adjusting the focus. "Movement," he said. "East side. Backyard." My pulse spiked. I grabbed the binoculars and followed his line of sight. A figure slipped through the fence. Tall, hooded. No hesitation, like he'd done it 100 times. He moved along the side of the house, ducked under the window, and paused at the back door. We waited, barely breathing. Then he walked in. No noise, no light, just gone, swallowed by the house like he belonged there. Russell tapped the side of his headset. "I'm going," he said. "Call the cops in 3 minutes." No sooner. I grabbed his arm. "Be careful." He gave me a grim smile. "Careful got us here. Now it's time to end it." He slipped out the back of the vacant house, vanishing into the shadows. I watched the clock. 3 minutes had never felt longer. Then I called. The dispatcher's voice was calm, rehearsed. I gave her the address, said it was a break-in in progress, possibly armed, and hung up before she asked more questions. We turned off the lights and waited. 2 minutes later, Russell's voice buzzed through the earpiece. "I'm in. He's not alone." I froze. "What?" "There's a camera set up. Live feed. He's watching the street. Watching us. Or thought he was. He's got a second screen showing surveillance footage of you, Cal. Old clips. You walking, talking, typing." I felt the world shift under me. "He's built a replica," Russell whispered, "of your life, like a digital diary. The scary part is it's not all public footage. Some of it's inside your old job. Places he shouldn't have access to. Before I could respond, red and blue lights flared down the block. Sirens. Tires screeched. Officers poured from the cruisers, guns drawn, shouting commands as they surrounded the house. Moments later, they dragged someone out. It wasn't him. It was a decoy, a mannequin dressed in clothes I owned, a mask printed with my face strapped to its head. The real intruder was gone. Russell came back, pale, shaking. He knew, he said. He knew we'd watch. The mannequin, it was bait. He wanted to see how far we'd go. Did you see his face? I asked. Russell hesitated. I saw yours. That didn't make sense. He wasn't wearing a mask, but it looked like you, like a version of you that stopped smiling a long time ago. My stomach turned. The police searched the house top to bottom. No signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. Nothing but that mannequin, standing silently in the center of our bedroom like a twisted stand-in for everything I used to be. After the police left, Russell stayed behind while we packed our things. You can't stay here, he said. He's watching this place like it's a stage, and you're the star of his show. We checked into a motel under different names, kept the lights off, curtains drawn. Neither of us said much. She was trembling, hands wrapped around a mug of untouched coffee. I stared at the wall, replaying the last few weeks like a nightmare on loop. He's escalating, I said finally. The messages, the photos, the impersonation. It's all building towards something. She looked up. What do? We go back to the beginning, I said. We find the first time he ever showed up in either of our lives. We find out what he wants. And then we take it away from him. I spent the next day digging through everything. Old emails, social media accounts, photos from her college years, even phone bills from nearly a decade ago. Somewhere, hidden in the static of normal life, was his first footprint. I found it on a hard drive she hadn't used in years. An old folder marked stuff. Inside were photos from a retreat she'd attended before we met. A yoga center near the coast. A few group shots. Then one photo stopped me cold. There he was, standing in the back, half-shadowed, just enough to be forgettable. But I saw it. The same posture, the same stare, fixated on her. She looked free in that photo. Younger, untouched by fear. He'd been there, waiting, watching, planning. I flipped through more files, searching for names, guest lists, anything. Finally, in a scanned waiver, I found it. Ryan Harland. My breath caught. I searched the name. Nothing recent. A few mentions in wellness blogs from over a decade ago. Then an arrest record sealed. No charges. No photo. Just a note. Subject released due to insufficient evidence. Considered mentally unfit for trial. It all made sense now. The obsession. The impersonation. The erasure. He didn't just want to be me. He believed he already was. And I'd stolen his life by existing. I printed everything, showed it to her. Her hands trembled as she read. I remember him, she whispered. He told me once that I wasn't living my truth, that I'd regret not choosing him. And now, I asked, now he's trying to make that choice for me. That night, another envelope arrived, slid under the motel door. Inside one photo, a recent one, us in the motel parking lot, unpacking. And a note, last warning, he's not real. I am. That was it. No signature, no threat, but it was clear. The time for watching was over. He was ready to take his place. And if we didn't stop him, he wouldn't just erase me. He'd erase the memory of me from everyone who ever knew I existed. We didn't sleep after the last envelope. The photo of us outside the motel wasn't just recent. It was taken from a distance of less than 10 feet. That meant he'd been close, watching, while we unpacked, while I locked the door, while she checked the bathroom for cameras. He was right there, close enough to snap a photo, close enough to hurt us, but he didn't. That's what haunted me most. This wasn't impulse. It was patience. This man didn't act in rage. He moved like a craftsman shaping the final cut. I stared at that picture until my eyes burned, until my mind replayed every moment of the day from a new angle. What had he seen? What had he learned? Was he smiling while I loaded bags into the room, thinking about how easy it had become to slip inside my life unnoticed? By morning, something in me hardened. The fear, the confusion, the fractured trust. It all collapsed into one clean feeling. Resolve. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't hiding. I was going to finish this. We checked out of the motel before the sun came up and drove in silence for hours. She held the photo in her lap the whole time, like it might change if she stared long enough. I could tell she was thinking the same thing I was. He wasn't going to stop. He was escalating with precision. He wanted a confrontation, and he was leaving us just enough space to walk straight into it. Russell met us at a diner off the highway. He looked tired, older, like this ordeal had aged him overnight. We handed him the photo. He didn't flinch. "He's not bluffing," Russell said. "This is a long game. He spent years learning how to erase you. The fact that you're still standing? That's the only part of the plan he didn't account for." I leaned forward. "We need to find him. Not scare him off. Not corner him. Find him." Russell nodded. I ran the phone numbers. The ones he used for the messages, the voicemails. Most were dead ends, burners. But one pinged an old router 2 towns over last week. Public Wi-Fi. A library. I pulled the security footage. "You want to see it?" I nodded. He slid his tablet across the table and hit play. There he was, walking past the help desk like he belonged. Hoodie, cap, backpack slung over one shoulder. But then he turned toward the camera for half a second. And I saw it. My face. Or a version of it. Enough to confuse someone on the street. Enough to pass for me from a distance. But not enough up close. The eyes were too flat. The mouth curled at the edges like it didn't know what real smiles felt like. But the scariest thing? He looked comfortable. Like a man walking through a second home. We drove there immediately. The library was small. Attached to a municipal building with faded paint and a half-torn sign that still read Information Center. Russell stayed in the car, scanning. She waited with him. I went inside. I didn't expect to find him still there. But I needed to see the space. I needed to feel how close we were. The librarian didn't remember much. Said a man came in late, stayed for about an hour, didn't speak. When I asked if he used a computer, she nodded and pointed toward the back. Station 6. I walked to it slowly. The screen was off. The keyboard slightly askew. But under the desk, taped to the underside of the drawer, was a flash drive. Black, unlabeled, cold as I slipped it into my pocket. Back in the car, we drove to a parking lot behind an abandoned shopping plaza. Russell booted up his laptop and scanned the flash drive for malware before opening it. 3 files. 1 video. 1 audio. 1 document. The video played first. A recording of my wife sleeping. From the foot of the bed. Recent. I recognized the sheets from the motel. My jaw clenched. "He was in the room," I said. "While we were there." She turned away, tears welling in her eyes. I wanted to punch the dashboard, scream, burn the world down. But I stayed still. Because we needed the next file. The audio was shorter. Just a whisper. My voice. "He doesn't deserve her. He never did. You know that. I know that. So I'll do what he never had the courage to do. I'll become him." The final file was a document. A letter. Not to me. To her. "You'll forget him eventually," it began. "You already started. You're just afraid to admit it. He was always a placeholder. I'm the one who knows your real life. Your real dreams. I've been with you longer than he has. You just didn't see me." The letter went on for 2 pages. Detailed. Intimate. Terrifying in how accurately it mimicked the tone I used when we first met. Inside jokes. Old phrases. Even references to things we said in our first apartment. He'd been watching for longer than we imagined. Russell exhaled and closed the laptop. "He's leaving a trail now. Not to gloat, to corner you. He wants you angry. He wants you unstable. Because that's when he makes his move. Then we make it first. I said. We take the fight to him. That night, I did something risky. I posted a video online. A message. No names. No details. Just me, sitting in the dark, talking directly to the lens. You're not me, I said. You'll never be me. And no matter how many steps ahead you think you are, there's one thing you'll never replicate. This. I held up a photo our wedding day. Not for him, for her. To remind her and maybe myself that we were real once. That he couldn't rewrite every page. I ended with one line. You're not watching us anymore. We're watching you. The next day he took the bait. He sent a reply. An anonymous comment under the video, hidden in the code. Then let's meet. One last scene. Just you and me. GPS coordinates followed. An abandoned radio station on the edge of a state park. We went at dusk. Russell waited nearby with backup on standby. I entered alone. The inside was wrecked. Broken glass. Torn posters. Dead air and the smell of mildew. I walked to the control booth. And there he was. Standing in front of a wall covered in photos of me. Some torn. Some burned. Some drawn over with words like delete, replace, and perfected. He turned. And for the first time I saw his full face. Not a mask. Not a copy. Something between us. Familiar and alien. You made it, he said. His voice was calm. Flat. Took you long enough. Why me? I asked. Out of everyone. Why choose me? He smiled, a small twitch. Because you lived the life I wanted. Quiet. Loved. Trusted. You had no idea how rare that is. So you decided to steal it? I said. No, he whispered. I decided to correct it. He stepped closer. They all forget eventually. You'll be the same. Erased. Just a blur in someone else's dream. My fist clenched. But I didn't attack. I turned, walked out, let the officers waiting take over. They moved in fast. He didn't resist. He laughed, like he'd already won. But I didn't care anymore, because I knew something he didn't. He could mimic my voice, my words, even my posture. But he couldn't steal my truth. He couldn't steal the pain I fought through, the love I chose to believe in again. And he couldn't stop what was coming next. His name, his face, his obsession, laid bare for the world to see. He was charged on multiple counts. Stalking, breaking and entering, cyber intrusion. The evidence spoke for itself. The photos, the recordings, the letters. He never got bail. And he never smiled again. We sold the house. Started over. I still wake up some nights thinking I'll find a note under the door or a photo in my inbox. But it's quiet now. Not perfect. Not easy. But quiet. And sometimes, I catch her looking at me like she's still searching for proof that I'm the real one. And I get it, because I still look at myself in the mirror and ask the same question. But there's one thing I know now. Truth doesn't live in the eyes or the voice or the face. It lives in the fight. And I fought to stay me. I fought to stay real. If you made it this far, thank you. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt like someone tried to erase your voice, your identity, your truth. And don't forget to subscribe. There's more to tell.